Hoshoryu is unstoppable. Takayasu deception. Kirishima, better than ever. The Aki Basho 2025 has already opened its doors, and from the very first days, the tension can be felt in every breath inside the dohyo. Who will set the pace of the tournament? On the SumoSpirit channel, we bring you what is happening in this tournament. Day 1 started with a bang. Yokozuna Onosato was up against Aonishiki. In this mighty clash of the first day, Onosato struck Aonishiki with thunderous force at the tachi-ai, advancing with unstoppable power. Aonishiki tried to slip away to the right, but Onosato seized him and drove him down to the ground with a crushing Yori Taushi, claiming his first triumph of the tournament. Hoshoryu returned to the dohyo after many injuries. Hoshoryu surged forward with blazing intensity, gripping Tamawashi's right thigh, lifting his leg, and forcing him backward in a fierce watashikomi. Both warriors crashed to the clay at the same time. In the final deliberation, Hoshoryu emerged victorious. The two warriors clashed with a storm of furious tsupari, each unleashing a tempest of strikes. Kotozakura broke through Abi's defense, driving him relentlessly to the edge and forcing him out with a decisive oshidashi. Another chapter of strength carved into the day's battles. And the Sekiwake? Hakuoho conquered Wakatakakage with the raw might of a juggernaut in full stride. Charging with unyielding momentum, he forced Wakatakakage to retreat toward the edge of the dohyo. Wakatakakage spun to the right in desperation, yet Hakuoho kept pressing, striking him in the face and driving him out with an unforgiving oshidashi. Wakatakakage's path to Ozeki was beginning to get complicated. Remember, two warriors stand as contenders for promotion to the rank of Ozeki by the end of this tournament. Wakatakakage holds the greater chance, as reaching double digits in victories could be enough to elevate his standing. True to his usual beginnings, he started this pursuit with a defeat. The other contender is the Mongolian Kirishima, who claimed victory against Oho in what many would call a near-utopian quest, to reclaim the rank he lost after the May tournament of the previous year. Day 2 started. Wakatakakage versus Oho, both lost on day 1. Wakatakakage rose swiftly from the ashes of his opening defeat. He struck Oho with determination, sliding his right hand inside at once and driving him back against the bales. There, he secured his left hand as well and forced Oho straight out with an unyielding Yorikiri. Bad start for Oho. The day continued with Onosato versus Tamawashi. Youth versus experience. At first, Onosato endured the crushing Nodowa of Tamawashi, a test of will that bent lesser men. Yet Onosato held firm, resisting with steel resolve. With precision, he shoved aside Tamawashi's elbow, then advanced like a tidal force, striking with a sharp Tsuki Otoshi to bring the contest to a dramatic end. Hoshoryu thrust his right hand in quickly, making repeated attempts to topple Takayasu. The veteran endured with his trademark grit, holding ground for a long, tense struggle. At last, Hoshoryu pierced through, locking in a powerful Moroza Shi grip. With that double hold, he surged forward with all his might and cast Takayasu out with a thunderous Yorikiri. Kotozakura versus Hakuoho. Kotozakura secured an effortless triumph on the second day, a promising sign for his form and condition this month. He absorbed Hakuoho's initial charge to the chest before sweeping him aside. After the takiai, Kotozakura sought to slide his right hand inside, reconsidered, then shifted left, luring his foe into the void he had created and toppling him with a clean Tsuki Otoshi. An important win for the Ozeki. Let's continue with Kirishima versus Abi. Kirishima kept stride with the early leaders, his path unwavering. He deftly deflected Abi's assaults, letting his rival overextend and falter. Then, with calculated precision, he seized the shoulder and finished the struggle with a decisive Sukui Nage, adding another victory to his march of redemption. Day 3 had one of the most evenly matched and important duels to show who has the most future. Aonishiki versus Kotozakura. The Komusubi Aonishiki continues to prove that his ambitions in the world of sumo rise as high as the heavens themselves. Kotozakura could not stop Aonishiki from driving him to the very edge of the tawara, where survival itself seemed in doubt. Kotozakura awakened and launched a desperate counterattack. At last, Kotozakura shoved Aonishiki down, yet not before Aonishiki had already forced him beyond the ring with a fierce oshidashi. Both ended the day 2-1. Now, Tamawashi versus Wakatakakage. Tamawashi struck with a brutal force, his right hand driving into Wakatakakage's face like a hammer of war. The thrust staggered Wakatakakage, pushing him sideways until the finishing oshidashi hurled him out of the ring. For Wakatakakage, whose dream of Ozeki promotion rests on his shoulders, this is not the beginning he needs. Both ended the day 1-2. Unlike them, we have Ura, who faced Fujinokawa. Why do we think it's important to mention Ura? Because of his great start. This contest was a battle of fire and steel, both warriors unleashing a relentless storm of tsupari. Fujinokawa twice sought victory through slapdown, his palms striking like lightning. Yet on the second attempt, Ura surged forward with precision, driving his opponent to overreach. In the end, the man in the rose stood firm, finishing the bout with a decisive oshidashi that sent Fujinokawa tumbling to the ground. Ura started in an incredible and unexpected way, 3-0. What happened to the Yokozunas? Hoshoryu had a tough battle against Hakuoho. The clash began with thunder at the takiai, yet in an instant Hoshoryu slipped to the right, seizing Hakuoho's belt with precision. He twisted, setting the battlefield into a spiral. Hakuoho fought valiantly to keep his balance, straining every muscle to resist the fall, but Hoshoryu tightened the grip of his uwatenage and sent him crashing to the clay. Onosato was facing Abi, who isn't in a good moment. Abi unleashed his opening flourish and leapt aside, trying to confuse his mighty opponent. Yet Onosato remained calm, a towering wall of composure. He cornered Abi with patience at the edge, smothered a desperate burst of tsupari, and then unleashed the oshitaushi, throwing him from the doyo. For Abi, the storm of defeats continues to rage, and the start of his tournament has become a nightmare. Continue with day 4. After facing Onosato, it was now Abi's turn to face Hoshoryu. Abi was forced to evade the takiai, sliding to the left in desperation. Yet Hoshoryu caught him with unrelenting precision and swiftly drove him out of the dohyo with a commanding oshidashi. Abi now suffers through a disastrous start with 4 straight defeats, while Hoshoryu surges in the opposite direction, undefeated and unshaken. Hakuoho with a 1-2 record against Onosato with 3-0. Onosato had reigned as one of the most dominant figures of the tournament, but Hakuoho met him head-on in a duel of will. As Onosato pressed him to the brink, Hakuoho twisted and turned, refusing to fall, until with a masterful Tsuki Otoshi, he hurled Onosato from the ring. The Yokozuna contender lost his unbeaten status, and Hakuoho claimed his very first kinboshi. Without a doubt, the crash of the day. Oho versus Aonishiki. In this clash, Oho brought down Aonishiki with a spectacular arm lock that shook the clay. Aonishiki tried to use his grip on Oho's left arm to drag him down, but the young warrior answered with brilliance. He slid his right arm under Aonishiki's left shoulder, pressed forward, and executed a crushing kote nage that broke his opponent's balance and sealed the victory. Weak start for the Ukrainian. What's happening with young promise Kusano? On day 4, she defeated Oshoma via Oshidashi, ending the day 2-2. It's not a great start compared to her Nagoya Basho. Ura suffered his first blow against Takanosho. Takanosho kept Ura directly in front of him, striking with a relentless flurry of tsupari. At one moment, Ura pulled him in close, seeking to turn the tide, but Takanosho seized the chance. With a sudden burst, he shoved his opponent over the straw bales with an emphatic Oshidashi. The warrior in rose lost his unbeaten streak. Now it was the other undefeated player's turn, Kirishima, who was up against the weak Gonoyama, who was 0-3. Kirishima clashed fiercely with Gonoyama, but the Mongolian warrior seized the moment. He reached his left hand over Gonoyama's back and pulled with raw strength, unleashing a spectacular uwate dashinage that hurled his opponent down. Until this battle, only Kirishima and Hoshoryu had remained unbeaten. But with this triumph, Kirishima stands tall. Day 5 begins. Wait, let's not forget the last Kotoshoho champion. What's going on with him? He was facing Ichiyamamoto. With a Yorikiri from the green Mawashi, the champion reached his 3rd defeat in 5, a very weak start compared to his sacred Nagoya Basho. Aonishiki versus Kirishima was the match of the day. Komosubi versus Sekiwake. The clash began with a wild brawl before Kirishima locked in with his left hand inside. As he tried to shift his grip, bringing the right hand inside for control, Aonishiki reacted with brilliance. He hooked into the movement, twisted Kirishima around, and once behind him, struck with perfect timing. Aonishiki drove him out from the back with a flawless okuridashi, claiming the victory. Kirishima had his first loss, and Aonishiki was left with a positive record of 3-2. The Yokozunas? Hoshoryu now against Atamifuji. Without hesitation, Hoshoryu lunged at Atamifuji's head at the tachiai. With his right hand, he seized the belt, while his left locked firmly from the outside. From there, Hoshoryu advanced like an unstoppable wave, forcing Atamifuji backward and overwhelming him with a crushing yorikiri. Hoshoryu at this moment stands as the lone undefeated warrior of the tournament. Onosato was up against the always difficult Oho. Oho aimed for Onosato's head, striking with aggression, but his weight betrayed him too far forward, too vulnerable. Onosato seized the instant, sliding his right arm to Oho's back and pushing him mercilessly into the clay with a punishing Tsuki Otoshi. Another victory carved for Onosato, who remains among the leaders. Negative 3-2 record for Oho. A must-see bout is Ura versus Kusano. Victory for Ura came through cunning and perfect timing. Kusano pressed forward with all his might, surging with the momentum of desperation. But when he leaned too far, the warrior in rose unleashed his snare. With a swift Hiki Otoshi, Ura pulled him down, sending Kusano hurtling forward, his own force carrying him beyond the doyo. Ura is in a great moment. Kusano isn't. We ended the day with a bout between the most experienced and oldest sumo wrestlers, Tamawashi versus Takayasu. This was a duel born of experience, two veterans locking horns in a test of endurance. Tamawashi struck first, attacking the throat and hammering Takayasu with a nodowa at the takiai, followed swiftly by another. Takayasu resisted, turning in protest, but Tamawashi pressed forward, strike after strike, until Takayasu was driven over the bales. Victory came by Oshidashi for Tamawashi. For Takayasu, however, the weight of defeat deepens, with 5 straight losses and no victories, 0-5 for him. Day 6? We must mention the Ozeki Kotozakura, who seems to be having a great time. He fought against Hiradumi. Both arrived 4-1. Hiradumi fought back with fury, trying to seize control and grip Kotozakura's belt, but the Sekiwake denied him at every turn. In the end, Kotozakura seized the right arm of his opponent, twisting it. With a sharp kote nage, sent Hiradumi crashing down. The surprise of the day came from Tamawashi, who defeated Kirishima, who also arrived 4-1. Kirishima attempted to force his way in with repeated attacks, but each attempt was denied. Then, retreating under pressure, he was pursued. Tamawashi charged forward with thunderous strength, driving Kirishima out of the ring in a heartbeat with Tsuki Dashi. And without a doubt, two fighters who are not in great form are Oho and Takayasu. Oho, this time against the Yokozuna Hoshoryu. Though Oho began the clash with a fierce grip to the throat, the Yokozuna held firm, unshaken by the assault. He drove his opponent to the edge and finished him with a decisive Shita Tenage, throwing him down with absolute authority. Hoshoryu remains undefeated. Hoshoryu, the unique unbeaten. Oho, weak to 4. And don't forget Takayasu. On day 6, he fought against Aonishiki. Aonishiki endured the storm of Tsupari unleashed by Takayasu, refusing to give ground. Patiently, he worked his way inside, his left hand locking firmly onto the belt. Step by step, he advanced until Takayasu was forced out by Yorikiri. For Takayasu, the weight of loss grows unbearable. 6 consecutive defeats and no victories. At the end of day 6, Hoshoryu stands alone as the leader of the tournament, his record a flawless 6-0. Behind him, 8 wrestlers went 5-1. Who? Onosato, Kotozakura, Shodai, Ura, Churanumi, Takanosho, Wakata Motoharu, and Tomokaze. And now, after these first beats of the tournament, the stage is on fire. What will the coming days bring us? Unexpected surprises, staggering falls, or the birth of a new legend of the doyo? The only certain thing is that the Aki Basho 2025 is just beginning, and the excitement will continue to grow bout after bout. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the SumoSpirit channel for more content. See you in the next video.